Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, when we think of the Nintendo Entertainment System, we often remember classic titles that defined a generation of gaming. But there's a hidden world of NES titles that never left Japan, at least not originally. Whether they were deemed too difficult, too niche, or too steeped in Japanese culture, these games remained locked away from Western audiences for years. So today we're exploring 7 fascinating Japan-only NES titles, their gameplay, stories, visuals, and why they stayed hidden from the rest of the world, until now. As said, this is just 7 games that I'm going to be talking about, and if you think there's ones I should be talking about, put them in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. We've got a weekly podcast where we talk about old games, and this week we're talking about Ninja Gaiden, and we've got $1 a month Patreon where you can get actively involved in the podcast and get your own show. Right, let's get into it, shall we? 7 games, originally released only in Japan. Mother. Released in 1989 for the Famicom, Mother was positioned as a modern-day role-playing game. It was incredibly ahead for its time. Now, whilst most RPGs leaned into the medieval settings and high fantasy, looking at Final Fantasy there, Mother flipped the script, grounding its world in a 1980s suburban America, complete with baseball bats, shopping malls, and telephone calls to your dad for saving your game. It was a game that felt very unique and personal. Now, at its core, Mother is a turn-based RPG clearly influenced by games like Dragon Quest. Players control a young boy named Ninten, who I didn't think was called Ninten for years. Upon discovering his psychic powers, Ninten sets off on a journey to stop a strange alien force known as Gygus. Along the way, he befriends other children with their own powers and uncovers secrets about his family's past. The game is structured with towns, overworld travel, and random enemy encounters. Combat is handled via a first-person interface, showing only the enemy and not your party, a hallmark of early JRPGs, very similar to Dragon Quest. One of the standout features of Mother is its writing. While primitive in its technical scope, the dialogue is very witty, emotional, and often meta. It pokes fun at RPG tropes while crafting a heartfelt story, and the game balances humour and melancholy in a way that few NES-era games dare to attempt. You might fight a possessed doll in one scene and cry reading a heartfelt letter in the next. The emotional range in this game became a defining trait of the series. Graphically, Mother uses a simple, colourful style. It wasn't revolutionary in its sprite work, but its use of bright colours and minimalistic design gave it a distinct visual identity. Characters had an exaggerated, toy-like appearance, and environments like homes and schools were rendered with enough charm to remain memorable. The music itself further strengthened the mood with jazzy, upbeat, and hauntedly memorable tracks. So why didn't Mother make it overseas? Nintendo of America actually commissioned a full English translation, retitling it as EarthBound, although this was later stylized as EarthBound Beginnings. The localization was nearly complete, and even early ROMs exist with working English text. However, it was ultimately shelved in 1991 due to fears about the game being too text-heavy and too dated by the time it reached the West. With the Super Nintendo on the horizon and RPGs still niche outside Japan, Nintendo pulled the plug. Despite this, Mother's legacy grew. Fan communities formed around leaked ROMs, and passionate efforts to preserve and translate the game independently kept it alive. And we all know about the history of EarthBound. The game was absolutely huge on the Super Nintendo and is often considered one of the best RPGs on the system, if not ever made. Nintendo decided to give Mother its official Western debut in 2015 via the Wii U Virtual Console. It was met with celebration from longtime fans who had waited decades. Critically, Mother is now recognised as a foundational title. Its emotional story, unique setting, and subverse humour inspired countless RPGs and indie titles. Now, me, myself, I have played it. I found it a bit of a slog, but mainly because this is very grind-heavy, and it's a very, very early JRPG. Do I like it compared to other ones? Probably not, but it was still nice to go back to it. Now, Mother itself paved the way for EarthBound on the SNES, and later Mother 3 on the Game Boy Advance. Make that, you cowards! Both of which are now seen as masterpieces of the genre. In the end, Mother is a story not just about psychic kids and alien invasions, but about the timeless power of storytelling in video games. Its cult status has transformed it from a Japan-only curiosity into one of the most cherished RPGs in Nintendo history. Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, to say the original Super Mario Bros. Changed gaming forever would be an understatement. So when Nintendo set out to create a direct sequel for Japanese audiences, they didn't reinvent the wheel. No, they just thought, fuck it, we'll make it harder. Super Mario Bros. 2 released in Japan in 1986, me birthday, in a continuation of the first game in both style and substance. It was designed with veteran players in mind, introducing brutal difficulty, and they weren't lying, brutal difficulty, and deceptive design tricks that tested even seasoned gamers. For us in the West, well, we know it as the Lost Levels, as the game retains the same engine, visual style and mechanics of the original Super Mario Bros. It includes familiar elements like power-ups and level structures, but ups the ante significantly. Poison mushrooms harm the player, unpredictable wind mechanics, and warp zones that'll send you backward were just few of the sadistic twists. It's not a game for the faint of heart, this was Nintendo's idea of hard mode, and I love it. Luigi was also given his own unique characteristics for the first time, jumping higher than Mario but with less traction. This added new strategic depth and made him a fan favourite in future titles. The addition of tricky level layouts that required pixel-perfect jumps and memorization created a challenge that bordered on punishment, but some players relished it. I did. Graphically, Super Mario Bros. 2, the Japanese version, doesn't deviate much from its predecessor. The tile sets, the enemies, the sprites, they're all similar here, though some visual tweaks give it the more refined look. The backgrounds are slightly more varied and level design used more vertical space and tight corridors, enhancing that claustrophobic feel of later worlds. So why wasn't it released in North America at the time? The story was, when it was received in the post for the guy to review, he went, "Fuck this is going to be too hard for players," and he spoke to Nintendo America and went, "We ain't got a chance with this," and they rejected it. Nintendo America feared it would frustrate players and damage the reputation of the Mario brand. Instead, they decided to reskin another Japanese game, Doki Doki Panic, turning it into the Western version of Super Mario Bros. 2. For years, the Lost Levels remained an enigma in the West, and it was eventually released as part of the Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo in 1993, with improved graphics and a save feature to ease the challenge. This version was many first players' exposure to the true sequel, and it was for me. My mate Rob had it, and that's how we played on the Super Nintendo, and we nearly cried together. It was a true bonding moment. The game has since appeared in its original form on platforms like the Wii, the 3DS and the Switch, giving a new generation the chance to try its uncompromising difficulty. The reception, though, has been mixed. Some laud it for its precision and craftsmanship, while others find it unfairly punishing. I absolutely love it. I don't mind hard games as long as it's fair. Despite its divisiveness, the Lost Levels holds a crucial place in Mario history. It established Luigi as a distinct character and demonstrated that Nintendo wasn't afraid to push boundaries. It may not be the most accessible Mario title, but it's certainly one of the most fascinating. Its legacy is that of a bold sequel that dared to challenge players, a purist dream and a casual gamer's nightmare. And the long-time timeline of Mario games, it's a testament to just how far a simple platformer can evolve. Well, saying that, we've got Super Mario Makers 1 and 2, and look how hard the levels are there. That makes the Lost Levels look like an absolute joke. Holy Diver. Holy Diver is a game that looks and plays like a gothic metal album come to life. Developed by Irem and released in 1989, Holy Diver channels the aesthetics of heavy metal bands like Dio and Iron Maiden. In fact, many of its characters are named after rock legends. Randy, Ozzy, and Zack are your protagonists, and the villain is named Black Slayer. But don't let the musical nods fool you, this is one of the toughest 8-bit platformers ever created. Gameplay-wise, Holy Diver is reminiscent of Castlevania Ninja Gaiden, woohoo! Combining precise platforming with magic-based combat. You play as Randy, the last surviving warrior of a magical bloodline, on a mission to defeat demon armies and restore peace to the world. The game features a variety of magic spells that you can collect and switch between, each offering a different tactical advantage. These powers range from fireballs and freezing rays to invincibility fields, making combat surprisingly strategic. The story, while minimal in-game, is surprisingly rich in the manual. The game takes place in the dark fantasy realm ruled by the Crimson Kingdom. The evil Black Slayer seeks to plunge the world into chaos by collecting the 5 emblem seals of the gods. Randy, son of the king and trained in sorcery and combat, must recover the emblems and stop the apocalypse. While this might sound cliché now, it was pretty epic setup for the time. Visually, Holy Diver excels with detailed sprite work and atmospheric level design. The backgrounds are trenched in moody tones of purple and black with ominous castles, burning forests and arcane temples forming the quest. The enemy designs are equally menacing, featuring undead knights, spectral beasts and grotesque demons. The character animation is smooth, particularly for Randy's spellcasting poses and leaping attacks. I'm not going to stop saying it like that, leave me alone. Sound design deserves mention too. The music, composed with a clear metal influence, pulses with dark energy and urgency. Tracks escalate tension during boss battles and is able to shift the mood from level to level. The sound effects, especially for magic and enemy destruction, are satisfying and weighty. So why did Holy Diver never come out in the West? For one, the overt references to real-life rock bands might have raised licensing issues. Nintendo America was notoriously strict about religious content and dark themes, which Holy Diver is full of. Honestly, look at the original Dragon Quests, they remove any sense of religion in that game. Combine that with the punishing difficulty and its very niche appeal, it's no surprise it never left Japan during its original release window. Despite that, Holy Diver gained cult status over the years. NES collectors and hardcore platformer fans sought out the Japanese cartridges. Eventually, Retrobit released an officially licensed English language cartridge for the NES in 2018, decades after the fact. This made it far more accessible to Western audiences and introduced it to a new generation. Critical reception was limited in Japan but genuinely positive. Magazines praised the graphics and challenge, although some noted it might be too difficult for average players. Not me! Today it's remembered as a standout Famicom title. Sorry, I'm just a bit of a clown. Often included in lists of the best Japan-only games. I know I've got a script I'm reading, but come on, I like to go off it, you know I do. Holy Diver represents a bygone era of fearless game design. It wasn't made to be accessible, it was made to push players to the edge. That intensity, combined with its thematic boldness, make it a hidden gem of the Famicom library. Joy Mech Fight. Joy Mech Fight is one of the most technologically daring and creative design games ever made for the Famicom. Released in 1993, it came at the tail end of the NES's lifespan, long after most players and developers had moved on to the Super Nintendo. But rather than being a throwaway title, it proved just how far the NES hardware could be pushed, and oh my god, look at this gameplay! The game stars Sukerbon, a comedic robot turned reluctant hero. When his creator's colleague, Dr. Waruyama, decides to conquer the world using an army of fighting robots, it's up to Sukerbon to stop him. Along the way, you battle dozens of robotic opponents, each with distinct designs and fighting styles. This wide roster gives the game a sense of variety rarely seen in 8-bit fighters. What makes Joy Mech Fight extraordinary is its animation system. The NES had major limitations in handling large animated sprites, and to get round this, the developers broke each character into multiple disjointed parts: arms, legs, heads, torsos, that were rendered independently. You clever bastards! This modular approach gave the fighters more fluid and expressive movement than any other game on the platform. Gameplay is impressively smooth and well functioning. Controls are tight and each robot has access to unique special moves. Although not as deep as Street Fighter 2, which to be fair, makes sense, the mechanics are solid, offering tactical options and a surprising amount of depth for a game that predates most console fighters. Modes include story, versus and training, and the AI is surprisingly competent. The story is told through charming cutscenes with expressive sprite animations. Sukerbon's transformation from a joke robot to a saviour gives the game a light-hearted but compelling narrative arc. Dr. Waruyama's increasingly menacing schemes give you the clear motivation to keep progressing. Visually, Joy Mech Fight stands out. The bright, cartoonish aesthetic helps differentiate the characters while taking full advantage of the modular sprite system. The backgrounds are simple but effective, letting the character animations shine. The game runs smoothly even during hectic moments, which is a testament to the programming wizardry involved. And the soundtrack matches the tone perfectly. Fast-paced, energetic tracks drive the action, and each robot has a theme that fits the personality. The audio design reinforces the game's identity as a quirky, high-energy fighter. So why didn't Joy Mech Fight come to the West? Well, it's a matter of timing. By 1993, the NES was essentially dead outside of Japan. Western audiences were focused on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Mega Drive, and introducing a new IP, especially a fighting game on an outdated system, made no business sense. Over time, however, Joy Mech Fight found a second life among retro enthusiasts. It's frequently highlighted as one of the most technically impressive NES games ever made. Sukerbon even appeared in Smash Bros. Ultimate as a Spirit and Assist trophy. Did he? I'm going to have a look at that, bringing the character to the global audience. Well, I never realised, but I'm going to realise it now. Joy Mech Fight is a testament to creativity and technical prowess. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. Beautifully. It's proof that even in console's twilight years, innovation can still shine. And I will tell you now, this is going to get an episode of the podcast one day, because this really does look like one of the best games I've ever seen on the console. Wai Wai World. Konami's Wai Wai World, released in 1988, is a Famicom exclusive celebration of the company's golden age. It serves as a crossover platformer that features a cast of characters from several Konami franchises, including Castlevania, Goemon, Twin B, Gradius, and more. The premise is both simple and zany. Dr. Cinnamon, a character from the Twin B series, recruits the robot Rickle to save 6 Konami heroes and restore peace to the Konami universe. What follows is an electric adventure bursting with personality and variety. Gameplay in Wai Wai World is an ambitious mix of the action platforming and genre hopping. You begin as Rickle, as you can unlock additional characters by rescuing them from each theme stage. Each character brings their unique abilities. Simon Belmont uses his whip, Goemon throws coins, and the Vic Viper can even fly and shoot up segments. The game shifts genres frequently, moving from traditional platforming to vertical shooting, maze exploration, and even underwater action. The story isn't heavily narrated, but is more than just a framing device. Each character's world reflects their original origin game. Goemon's stage is feudal Japan, Simon's is a gothic castle, and so on. This clever design makes the game feel like the greatest hits medley of Konami's 8-bit catalogue. It fosters a sense of discovery as each level offers different mechanics and enemies. Visually, the game is colourful and cartoonish, matching the tone of the crossover events. While it doesn't push the Famicom to its limits graphically, its sprite work is expressive and instantly recognisable for fans of Konami franchises. The backgrounds are varied and detailed enough to reflect each series' theme, making the game feel larger than it really is. Musically, Wai Wai World is a standout. It features rearranged themes from the original games each character hails from. Hearing the Castlevania or Gradius themes rendered into catchy 8-bit form as part of the same game is an audio treat. The soundtrack is energetic, diverse, and cohesive despite its many origins. So why didn't we get this outside Japan? Well, the main reason was the sheer number of licensing hurdles. Several of the characters like Goemon was not known in the West at the time, and Konami felt like crossover appeal wouldn't translate to an unfamiliar audience. Like, to be honest, how often did we get Goemon games? Hardly ever. Additionally, the localization would have seemed too costly. Despite its limited release, Wai Wai World has become a cult favourite. ROM hackers and fan translators made it more accessible over the years, and it's often recommended to retro gamers looking for a unique experience. There was even a sequel, Wai Wai World 2, which was released in 1991, again it was Japan only. Reviews for Japanese publications were positive. It was praised for creativity, gameplay variety, and Konami fan service. In retrospect, it stands as one of the earliest successful examples of a shared universe in video games, something that became more common in later generations, Smash Bros. Wai Wai World is more than a novelty. It's a surprisingly polished and engaging title. For fans of Konami's legendary 8-bit output, it's a must-play. Final Fantasy III. Before we got to find out what this game actually was via remakes, it lived exclusively on the Famicom starting in 1990. Developed by Squaresoft, this installment marked a major step forward for the series, introducing the flexible job system that would influence numerous future entries. While the original two Final Fantasies did make it overseas eventually, Final Fantasy III was left behind for over a decade. The gameplay mechanics of Final Fantasy III built upon the foundations of its predecessors, but adds a wealth of new mechanics. Most notably, the job system allows players to switch their character roles at almost any time. With classes ranging from Black Mage and Thief to Dragoon and Ninja, the game invites experimentation, and the strategy on the scale had not been seen before on the NES. The story begins with 4 orphan youths discovering a mysterious crystal, the Course, which bestows upon them a mission to restore balance to the world. As the narrative unfolds, players travel across continents, dive into dungeons, and fight off apocalyptic threats. Though relatively minimal by modern standards, the game is expanded through NPC dialogue and environmental storytelling. Graphically, Final Fantasy III is an impressive late-era Famicom title. The character sprites are detailed, and the overworld is diverse in setting, from forests and mountains to high-tech ruins and airships. The battle screens are clearly organised, and spell animations, while limited, are visually satisfying. Musically, Nobuo Uematsu returned to compose another memorable score. From somber town themes to energetic battle music, the soundtrack stands amongst the best on the Famicom. Each piece serves to elevate the emotion and scale of the journey. So why did it stay in Japan for so long? Well, the answer lies in the size and complexity of the game. The cartridge used additional memory mappers and custom chips that made localization difficult. Squaresoft had also shifted focus to developing Final Fantasy IV for the SNES, so Final Fantasy III was quickly left behind. For years, Final Fantasy III was the lost chapter for Western fans. It wasn't until the Nintendo DS remake in 2006 that the game officially released outside Japan. I bought this. This 3D version modernised the graphics and definitely changed the plot, while preserving the job system that defined the original. Critics in Japan praised Final Fantasy III for its depth and scope. It was considered the best in the series up to that point, and many of its ideas resurfaced in later classics like Final Fantasy V and Tactics. Today, the original Famicom version is a touchstone for the RPG historians and fans of the classic turn-based combat. Beyond its legacy in the Final Fantasy canon, Final Fantasy III influenced the genre as a whole. The job system concept would go on to become a staple in JRPGs, setting a standard for the character progression flexibility. Many fans consider it one of the most innovative titles for the NES library, and the DS remake helped reintroduce it to a new generation. Even so, the original Famicom release retains a unique charm with its 8-bit visuals and minimalistic storytelling. Final Fantasy III may have been lost in time for a while, but its legacy is undeniable, and its influence continues to echo through RPGs today. And finally, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble. I'm going to make this very clear. I love Gundam, and Zeta Gundam is one of the best TV series I've ever seen in my life. Seriously, watch that shit. If there's one game that truly showcases the strength of a popular license in Japan, it's Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble, released by Bandai in 1986. As one of the earliest attempts to translate the beloved Gundam anime into interactive form, this title had massive anticipation in its home country. The gameplay is a blend of first-person cockpit shooting and side-scrolling platforming. While in cockpit mode, you pilot a Zeta Gundam through corridors filled with enemies, targeting mobile suits in pseudo 3D fashion. And between these stages, the game shifts to a side-scrolling levels where you control the mecha from a third-person view. This dual structure approach was rare for the time and added variety to what could have been a straightforward shooter. Narratively, the game loosely follows the events of the Zeta Gundam anime. You take on the role of Camille, the teenage pilot of the Zeta, as he battles Titans and Rogues factions threatening the Earth sphere. While the story is minimal in-game, Japanese player familiar with the anime would have filled in the gaps, and yeah, it would be handy to watch the anime, because Camille's a bit of a bitch, really. Graphically, Hot Scramble was impressive for a 1986 title. The cockpit view gave players a sense of immersion rarely seen on the Famicom, and the side-scrolling stages were fast-paced and colourful. The Zeta Gundam sprite was easily recognisable, and the enemies, although repetitive, captured the style of the anime. The audio also featured simple but catchy tunes that carried the pace of the action. The sound effects, especially in cockpit mode, were appropriately futuristic, and small voice samples enhanced the atmosphere, a major novelty at the time. So why didn't we get this one? Well, this is probably the easiest out the bunch. No one knew what Gundam was at the time. In the West, we didn't know about this till Gundam Wing, and that's how I got introduced to the series, and I've watched every other one since and before. And without that name recognition, the game had little chance of selling. Additionally, the mix of gameplay styles and story elements tied closely to the anime may have confused Western players unfamiliar with the lore. It was followed by several sequels and remains one of the highest Famicom titles based on the anime. The game's legacy, however, is mixed. While groundbreaking in its ambition, some critics noted the gameplay was uneven, with cockpit sections sometimes feeling sluggish and platforming stiff. Nevertheless, it set the standard of future Gundam titles and demonstrated how multimedia synergy could drive sales. Over time, Hot Scramble became a historical benchmark for anime-based games. It laid the groundwork for how licensed anime properties could be adapted into interactive media, inspiring not just future Gundam games, but also other franchises like Macross, Dragon Ball, and Evangelion. While the mechanics may feel dated by today's standards, its ambition and commercial success made it a cultural touchstone. Today, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble is mostly a curiosity outside of Japan, but for Gundam fans and Famicom collectors, it's a piece of history. It marked the beginning of a long, complex relationship between anime and video games that still thrives to this day. And that's it! 7 games that were originally released only in Japan. What do you think of the list? Do you think there's ones I should be talking about? Let me know in the comments below. And if you really think I deserve it, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. My name's been Danny, and I'll see you again in 3 days for another video. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.